So, welcome to another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And today is June the 11th, 2025. And I just want to start by saying thank you from the bottom of my heart to those of you who come and join me live, because it's always wonderful to have your energy, your presence here. And those of you who watch it on YouTube, especially to those of you who leave comments, it's just wonderful engaging with you and getting feedback. And to the many that watch it, and you never leave a comment, and that's okay. But I know you're watching it because I can see through the views that these messages are finding a pretty wide audience. And I'm getting emotional about this. My only intention with sitting here week after week, year after year, sharing these transmissions is because there's just another way of being in this world. There is a much happier way of being in this world, a much more peaceful way of being in this world. And that can only be achieved when we train our mind to have that experience. If our mind is not trained, then the ego is going to do what the ego does because the ego feeds off of an untrained mind. And what that means, trained means you understand that there are only two thought systems. There's the thought system of God, there's the thought system of the ego. Good to see you there, brother. Been a little while. It's nice to have you here. But it is so important that we understand that there is only thinking with love and thinking with fear. And when you can see both of those two thought systems and you pick love, a revelation happens. You realize that love is not even a choice. Love is what you are. It becomes a choiceless choice. But to get to the point that you are just being what you are, you have to go through the process of choosing to remove everything that you're not, of choosing to recognize anything of a low vibration. And that's always going to be anything that causes you to contract. If you pull away, you're in fear. You're going to go into protection. If you go into protection, you're going to justify attack. And attack doesn't mean that you get your guns out and you go, or you get your voice all activated and you go yell at somebody. Attack can be passive aggressive. Most of my life, my attacks were passive aggressive. I would just shut down and not talk to you. And that was my way of attacking you. Because in my mind, the egoic thought pattern was that you're not worth me talking to you about. Or very arrogantly, there was the thought that, well, you don't even understand what I'm saying. You're not at my level, so why would I bother saying anything to you? So whether the ego is attacking aggressively, where we can see it, you're coming at somebody and it's obvious, everybody can see what you're doing, or it's passive aggressively and it's in your head only. And this is why, I'm not a student of the Bible by any means. I'm not, clearly not a scholar for that reason, because I haven't really studied it. But there are some things in there that are very profound. And one of the things that I remember Jesus saying is it doesn't matter if you have a sexual experience with somebody else's partner or in your mind you lust over them. It is still the same frequency. It is a frequency of deceit, of lying, cheating, and that's what the ego is doing to us. It is lying to us about who we are. It is cheating us from having an experience that is our natural birthright. And being able to train your mind is what allows you to see the two ways, and there's only two ways, the two ways of being in this world. And they are so opposite to each other. And to pick one is to deny the other. There is no way you can stand in the essence of the truth of who you are fully while you're entertaining the ego, even if it's just an insy, tinsy, winsy little bit. To entertain the ego means, first and foremost, that you believe that you have a body, then that you think that you're separate from the world. Let me rephrase that you think you are the body. If you know you have a body, then you realize that you are in this third dimension and you have a body to have an experience in the realm of separation. If you understand that, then you're moving further away from the ego. If you think you are your body, you are your thoughts, you are your life experiences, then you're inside of the egoic story. And I can tell you, mm, everybody that I have had the pleasure of working with have a lot of spiritual understanding about what the ego is, but they're still inside of their egoic story. It can take years, decades. I've coached some people for over 10 years, and it wasn't until the last year that they finally saw, or the last 2 years maybe, that they finally saw the ego. It's so insidious, it's so tricky. But while we are believing that we are this body and that there is a world out there, if you're experiencing triggers, activations of judgment, of fear, of worry, of concern, you are in your ego, even if the ego is spiritualized and knows a lot of these wonderful truths. We operate with the truth before we can step out of the egoic trance and see what is ego and what is not. Who we are as the light of the world, spelled WORLD, right, Susie? Not the light of the word, like I put in my message earlier. When you understand that you are the light of the world, there is nothing that you cannot stand with in total and complete compassion and kindness and patient and gentle, loving open-mindedness with. Like, for example, what is happening in the world today, the stuff that is taking place in LA. And I was watching, I like to look at the highlights of the news. I pretty much just read headlines, and that kind of tells me everything that I need to know. I can see the battleground on planet Earth. Course in Miracles is a course in training our mind to rise above the battleground. The battleground is egos battling out who's right and who's wrong. When you can rise above it, you can observe it. And here's something that is really important that we understand about who we are as the light of the world. In looking at that thing that is egoic, looking at that battleground and observing the players of that game of right and wrong with total compassion in your heart, you can look at that and recognize, number one, we don't know what anything is for. So that's the first thing, is get out of thinking you know why it's happening. Number two, you recognize that God can use everything for the greater good. All of it can be used by the Holy Spirit inside of each of our minds to help us choose another way. On this plane of existence, on this third dimension, where egos have convinced everybody that comes here to think that we're separate, to believe in hierarchy. Our minds have been conditioned in hierarchy, the powerful and the not so powerful, the haves and the have-nots, the right ones and the wrong ones. You can see very clearly humanity in when the ego runs a show taking sides. When we train our mind to think with Holy Spirit and we rise above the battleground and we watch the two sides, I use quote unquote because there are not two sides. There are just beings who are believing thoughts that make them think they're on one side or the other. Your compassion, your acknowledgement of the courage of those souls to come in and play those roles at this time is what will allow you to be the light of the world that sends the love and sends the frequency. You emit it. Every single one of us is like a walking tower, like a walking cell tower, if you will, that is emanating a frequency, or a radio station, whatever you want to think of yourself as. You're emitting a frequency. That frequency sends ripples inside of the dream. Those ripples activate something in people. They don't have to hear your thoughts. They don't have to even know who you are, and chances are they won't know who you are, especially if it's happening across the world in a place you've never been to. They have no clue who you are, but they will feel that resonance of that higher frequency that invites them into curiosity, look at things differently, that invites them into feeling some hope, because as you emit that frequency, Holy Spirit in them can catch that wave, if you will, and ride that wave of ascension, right? Move beyond the current circumstances where they feel powerless, and they can just go to, wait a second, there is another way. There has to be another way. God, what would you have me do? We do more to elevate the consciousness of humanity by sending out ripples of remembrance, reminding everybody you are as God created you. None of you, even all these people that are participating in what's happening in LA, and now I'm seeing that it's happening in many, many places. And when you begin to see how this sparks and moves about, you can begin to realize, this is not an organic thing. And there's a reason why this is happening, because it's bringing to our conscious awareness what humanity is pretty much ready to be done with, which is that divisiveness that we have been conditioned into believing is normal. Pick a side. You got to pick this candidate or that candidate. What if we, well, it's not pick this candidate or it's pick this party or that party. What if we didn't have any parties? Can you imagine how that would change dramatically if we just had people standing on their own conviction, and then we elect the one who is most accurate, um, matching our vibrational resonance? When we put people into two parties, so much energy is wasted in bashing the other side, not in really expanding upon what it is that you're here to bring, but in bashing the other side, in getting rid of the opponent, in making them look bad. All of that energy is such a waste. And when you think about the way it plays out on the planet today, not only is it a waste of energy from the candidate, it's a waste of money, because in this world we use money, that's what we have equated with the value of energy. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of other resources, the number of people that have to be used, whether it's in the media, whether it's in your own party, or whatever it is that you're doing, your own candidacy. I don't know how all of that works, but I've seen enough to realize that it takes an incredible amount of people and money to run a campaign. And once you're elected, to continue to make you look good and the other side look bad. An incredible amount of energy is wasted. So to those of us who are doing this work and training our mind to rise above the battleground is to begin to see everybody with so much compassion. We must extend the frequency, the ripples of forgiveness. They don't know what they're doing because they're in a trance. They are under the trance of the ego. Anybody that is out there bashing somebody, hating on somebody, wanting to get rid of somebody, is in a trance. They are in the egoic trance. That deserves compassion, not judgment. If you're wanting to ascend, you will want to extend forgiveness. If, however, you are looking at it through the lens of the ego, even if it's a spiritualized ego, you will still pick sides and think you are right in your side. And I know I've been there, done that. I get that. When you get to the place that you move into neutrality, which is a pretty high frequency, I mean, neutrality, to get to neutral, you got to get above courage. And courage is what is necessary to question your own beliefs and go, I'm not going to believe the thoughts in my head. I'm going to believe the feeling in my heart. And in your heart, you can tell. If you're judging somebody, your heart closes up, you tense. It's so easy to feel the ego. when it is in judgment, because you tense, you get tight, because you're going into protection. That's what the ego does. Fear of whatever's out there, danger, danger, and you go into contraction. When you're at ease and at peace, you don't want to judge anybody because you don't want to give up that peaceful feeling, because then you're going to have to get contracted. The Course in Miracles was given to us for this time in humanity. At this time in the world, we are in the process of picking sides. And it's not picking sides based on political sides or religious sides. It is picking a side for God or for ego. And when we pick a side, what we are doing is we're participating in an unbelievably amazing process that it's the first time, from my understanding, that this has ever happened for humanity. What that means is that we don't have to die and have an experience on the other side of seeing what's going on and choosing from the other side what is true and what is not. We have an opportunity right now at this time to pick God or ego while we are still in these bodies, while we still have this experience of separation. What that means is that when millions, if not a billion or two, or maybe even more people, while we are incarnated, say we are not going to participate in hate anymore, in fear anymore, we are not going to participate in divisiveness and separation. When it happens while we are incarnated, it absolutely changes everything about this world. It moves us into a total, complete, different way of being. And it's going to create a very clear division. While we're on this planet, we're going to see those who are going to want to stay in that judgmental place and who are going to want to instigate things. But what's going to happen is that number is going to be shrinking little by little by little, because those who choose not to participate in that are going to be peaceful. They're going to be healthier. They're going to be happier. They're going to be living lives that are so joyful. This side and their contracted, angry way of thinking are going to say, oh, that's fake. Nobody can be that happy, because they're projecting their own unhappiness. Oh, that can be good for anybody, because they're projecting their own lack of worth, of recognizing that they too deserve that. And little by little, we're going to see on this beautiful planet humanity taking very distinct sides. So much of that was activated with COVID. You saw the people who pick sides, and those who picked the side of taking it were very angry with those who didn't. And when you look at the logic of it, if you believe in that shot, take it, and then nothing is going to hurt you, right? If you believe in it, why would you believe that those who don't take it can affect you if you took it? The illogicalness of it was so evident for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Well, we're going to see the world dividing into those who want to communicate in order to go into collaboration and cooperation and in co-creation of something better. And those who do not want to talk to anybody else, they only want to stand for what they stand for. And if you don't stand with them, then you're against them. And that mentality is what the Course is wanting to train us out of, that need to be right. Because, here's what's so beautiful. When you move to a place of love, you can recognize, you can love your brothers and sisters who think differently, because they're powerful souls who want to have that experience. That is one of the hallmark understandings of being awake, of being in the process of having your mind so trained that you're listening to the voice of God, is that you respect everybody's journey, because you see them as souls choosing that journey, just as you as a soul chose the journey that you're in, and then you chose to wake up from that journey. Some people don't want to wake up at this, and I'm going to say people, but some souls don't want to wake up because they want to have that experience. Not only that, some of them have to have that experience to help others wake up. A lot of our awakening is because we're looking at the opposite going, I don't want that anymore. Well, isn't that a gift? Isn't that a gift that we've been given? Those who contract themselves so that some of us can choose expansion. What a blessing. So everybody who is sitting in their righteousness are giving you the choice, the opportunity to see, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? Because at the end of the day, the Course in Miracles is about you understanding that God gave you one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to be happy. And to be happy means you are not concerned about what's happening in the world of the ego. You are more focused on co-creating the happy dream. But your mind has to be so clearly aligned with the truth of who you are. For those of you and all of you here watching are inside of the Awareness Academy, and you guys are all members in the community feed. I posted right before I came on here, so it can be but a few minutes ago, the latest channeling by Erin Michelle, and she channels Jesus. And the message, I mean, she touches on all the things that we talk about here because she is channeling Jesus's truths that are given to us through the Course in Miracles. And it's basically, you have got to stop thinking that anything in this world is real. None of it is real except for the souls that are here playing the games of separation. That's it. When you acknowledge that everybody is the essence of love itself, either expressing it or suppressing it, that's it. That's it. There should be no two ways of sorting out humanity, except for those who know the truth and extend it, and those who don't know the truth and are in protection mode. They're scared. They're really scared because they're hearing a voice that's telling them to be afraid. So in the community, please go and watch that video and leave some comments about maybe some nuggets that you get from Jesus's message, because it goes right with A Course in Miracles. So to get into where we left off last week, we're always in A Course in Miracles. We are still in chapter 3 because we're never going to rush through this. We're in chapter 3 in the text. We are in section number 7, which is creating versus self-image. And it is so important that we understand the difference between the two. When we are creating, we are extending the kingdom. We are allowing God to extend love through us. We're loving all that is. Mind is quiet because it's not judging. That's the only way you know that ego is active, is your mind gets really busy. You got so much conversation going on in there because it's so busy attacking and justifying and protecting and denying and shaming and guilting and all of those things. But when you get comfortable with a quiet mind, which becomes your normal, you begin to feel a movement of creation happening through you. And then that creation wants to extend through you. The self-image is who you think you are according to the ego. You know, I'm a woman, I'm this age, and I'm this party, and I'm this religion, and I'm this whatever. All of that is a self-made image. You made it up. Yes, you made it up with what was given to you. Your parents gave you your name. You know, the government gave you your status, your social security number, your whatever. The church gives you your religion, and you take on beliefs about the world based on what you're programmed with, what those around you share with you, and you just, for the most part, emulate what they did until you get your own mind and take control of your own thinking and get curious and begin to do your own research. Then you might even leave the party or leave the religious indoctrination behind and start thinking on your own. If you're studying A Course in Miracles, you're already a free thinker. I mean, you have to be, because this is not what has been the norm as we have had for thousands of years. So when you enter into understanding, are you creating is because you've aligned with God. Are you in your self-image is because you're interested in what you believe. You're not going to question your beliefs, and then you need to be right about what you believe. even though you have no clue what the opposite is because you weren't curious enough to want to hear about it from anybody else. So last week was episode 200. This is episode 201. And last week we did paragraph number 4. We talked about eating of the tree of knowledge as a symbolic expression of usurping the ability for self-creating. So when we hear the story, and which is why we have to question all religion because so much all of it is man-made. God does not hand out religions. God only gives us the loving is the only religion, if you want to call it that. But there are no rules and regulations that go with it. You have to love these, but not these, or whatever. God is love, and so are we. And loving all that is all that we're supposed to do. And when we are loving without any egoic fears and self-images, we are really operating with real knowledge. But the fruit of the tree of knowledge really meant the the tree of good and evil, meaning we separate the world into good and bad, right and wrong, holy and unholy. That is the ego that does that. God wants us to experience the knowledge of the truth of who we are, which is loving no matter what, which is why Jesus came 2000 years ago, like the rest of us, took on a body, incarnated, had an experience of separation, believed that he was separate, believed that he was a Jew, believed that he was the son of Mary and Joseph, operated inside of those that thought system, operated inside of the idea that, he was a carpenter like his father. But something began to activate with him at a very young age that had him question, all those lost years of Jesus that the Bible doesn't speak about. Well, they don't speak about it because they don't want you to know about it. Because what was Jesus doing? He was studying in with the Eastern teachers. He was studying the teachings of Buddhism, of Hinduism, which were way older than he was. It had already been here hundreds of years before Jesus arrived, and Jesus knew he was pulled into remembering because he came in with an assignment to wake up at a very young age. So he moved into the remembering to go seeking the truth. And he went seeking the truth and discovered that he had to train his mind through meditations, through those Eastern practices. He got still, he got quiet, he began to hear the voice of God, and he began to see what was the ego. Then he has that moment where he's baptized in the River Jordan by John the Baptist, and he in that moment of cleansing, of purification, which was symbolic also, he is dipped down into the living waters of the river, and he comes up remembering the truth of who he is. He had no choice but go and spend 40 days in the desert. He had to get away because he saw clearly, oh my gosh, this what I'm observing here, all of these Pharisees and these Roman people, and this is not what's real. He had to go reset because he came out of that baptism with such high frequency that he literally couldn't stay among the people that were operating in lower frequencies. He had to go into the desert and connect with God and connect and find God within. Once he did that, he couldn't help but then spend the next 3 years of his life sharing the good news that freed him. Love your neighbor as yourself. Why? Because we're all one. And the only way you can love your neighbor is because you have learned to love yourself. And how do you love yourself? You come to love God. How do you love God? You come to know what created you. So it's all so simple. As we begin to understand the self-image that comes with all of the lists of what's good and bad about you, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. That's self-made. God did not make up any of that. God said, you are the light of the world. You are made in my image. You are the presence of love. You are perfect and holy and magnificent. That is what you are according to God. And we don't believe that while we're believing that there's something wrong with us. So we have to gain the courage to acknowledge our holiness, our magnificence, our perfection as God created us. When we begin to love ourselves, you cannot help but love your neighbors because you realize they're just like me. They're these little balls of light that have been encapsulated inside of this egoic facade, pretending to be who they're not. And so then it's easy to forgive them. So when you have the knowledge of the truth of who you are, you let go of the knowledge of good and evil. There is in according to God, there is no good and evil. In this world, however, in this third dimension, evil is the expression of love suppressed. Period. Anybody who is doing evil deeds is because they don't know who they are. And to hurt another, to kill another, to abuse a child, to go throw rocks at people, spit at people that are saying things you don't like, that is because you're in a trance. You have been hijacked. Your mind has been hijacked by the ego. You're not in control of your mind because it takes a lot of courage to control your mind because it starts with curiosity and then a willingness to suspend righteousness. Then you're left with, okay, well, what else is there? And if you're being righteous, you can't be curious. Those two are opposites. So we have to understand that we have eaten of the tree of good and evil. When you buy into good and evil, you are going to see people because you're going to categorize them. These are good, these are evil. That's where judgment comes from. So if we're to stop judging, we are to start acknowledging they're all loving beings who are in a trance. That calls for compassion, not judgment. So in paragraph 4 from last week, it says that knowledge cannot deceive, but perception can. So we need to eat of the tree of knowledge. We need to go back to eating of the tree of knowledge, know the truth of who we are, and let go of the good and evil that we were indoctrinated with for so long and made to be afraid and guilty if you did something bad and blah, blah, blah. All that church dogma serve the purpose because when it is used by those who are operating in a hierarchy, they're in a trance and they think they're in charge and they're the bosses and they have more than everybody else. I mean, think about it logically. Why would there need to be a ruler, somebody who has more than anybody else? Why should they get paid more? Why should they live in luxury and have people working as their slaves? Love doesn't do that, but we have accepted that. Why should there be billionaires and people are hungry when easily they could be doing things to help the greater good? Love doesn't do that. Love does not separate and segregate and says, I have and you don't. I'm worthy and you're not. Love doesn't do that. So, how do you correct that? You have compassion. They don't know what they're doing. They're in a trance. They're lost inside of the idea that their worth comes from what they acquire from the outside and what they rule over on the outside. That's not an easy thing to get over when your mind has been indoctrinated since you were a child, believing in kings and queens and presidents and rulers and dictators. I mean, when you look at any dictator in the world today, you know it is pure ego, pure ego. But then anybody who stays there, who is born into that world and stays there, it's ego too. They have to play the role of victim to those who are playing the roles of bullies. Well, the more of us that wake up and don't want to play the role of victim anymore, the more the game begins to unravel because you got to have the players. And if the players are not there, that game is going to end, which is what I believe is happening right now. The game is intensifying for people to pick a side. But again, the side is truth or illusion, love or fear. And if there's still going to be fear present, then that's what those souls want to continue doing. Don't judge them, allow them, but unplug your energy from the judgment and raise yourself above the battleground so that you can send the frequency of love through the forgiveness, the acknowledgement that they don't know what they're doing. and really mean it because you have found the knowledge. So in paragraph 5, it says, the mind can make the belief in separation very real and very fearful. And this belief is the devil. It uses quote unquote, because God did not create a devil. There is no such thing as devil. If you look at the word devil and you flip it, it is lived. It you know, let's break it down. Devil, flip it, lived, lived. If you're operating from devil ideas, meaning you think that you have the right to hurt others, that you somehow are God, you make yourself God, and you have the right to put anybody below you, you're operating not in the lived sense. You're not experiencing the living waters. You're not experiencing the life force pulsing through you to extend. You're actually pretty contracted. The whole idea of devil and Satan and evil, take the word evil, leave out the D. Evil and live are the same thing backwards. So if you're going to live fully alive as the presence of God with the knowledge that you are the light of the world, that you're here to extend love, you cannot do anything evil. It's not possible. You couldn't hurt anybody because you know you're one with everybody. But if you're hurting everybody, you don't know you're one with them because you're under a trance that deserves compassion. Those who are ascending to co-create a happy dream cannot be part of that happy dream if your frequency is in condemnation. If there is any judgment, you have dropped into the battleground, and now you're a commentator about who's good and who's bad, and who's evil and who's holy. You have to move above the battleground, stop the judgment, and begin the acceptance that in the third dimension, we get to come in here and put whatever costume we want to put on. And the costumes are very simple. They're either bullies or victims. Those are the two costumes in this third dimension. To rise above that is to begin to take off the costume and know yourself as God created you. Pull off that dark costume and let your light shine. That's all that can happen when you begin to accept the truth of who you are as God created you. So it tells us the whole devil, that's the belief in separation. And it's real and fearful if you believe it. If you believe it, let me go to sentence 2. It is powerful, active, destructive, and clearly in opposition to God because it literally denies his fatherhood. When we are in that devil mindset, when we are in that egoic mindset, ego, devil, Satan's all the same thing, you're denying God. And it's not that there is a devil with horns out there, like they put God out there on a cloud and they're battling each other. No, the battle is in your head. The battle is in you. The battleground is inside of you. And that is the battle that requires the most courage for you to finally acknowledge is taking place. That battle within is the battle between the voice of love and the voice of fear, the voice of happiness and joy and the voice of needing to be right. I have said this to my clients for years. Typically, when I'm working with somebody, they tend to argue for their limitations. They want to justify their anger. They want to justify why they're fearful. They want to justify why they're right until they finally see that that's a waste of their time. And it's a waste of mine because I can't work with somebody who is in that space. What happens is when you decide, oh no, I'm hearing that there's something more peaceful and more, I want that. That level of curiosity, that level of true, honest desire to shift your perception is what always allows the miracle to happen, because that's what the miracle is a shift in perception. Well, you need to understand that the devil is in your head and it's the ego. God is in your head because it's what you're made of. So you got to go inside and decide which of these two wolves you're going to feed, which of these two stories are you going to believe and align with. That's all that's happening. Sentence 3 says, look at your life and see what the devil has made. What has the ego made? How many broken relationships, how many people did you let walk all over you, or how many people did you walk all over them? How many people did you lie to? How many relationships, be they intimate, be they family, be they with bosses, with friends, with neighbors, how many people did you need to be right and put them down? How many people did you elevate? How many movie stars and athletes did you think, oh, wow, they're up there and I'm down here? That's the devil in your head. Because anything that separates and holds a hierarchy of better than and lesser than is the devil. So you don't need to go look for the devil out there. It's in you. And we project it into the world because we give power to those who operate in those characteristics, and we either align with them out of fear or we align with them out of greed. That's just the only way that it can happen. So then sentence number 4 says, but realize that this making will surely dissolve in the light of truth because its foundation is a lie. That line right there is the line of liberation. That is a declaration of your freedom. The lies will dissolve when I allow myself to sit in the light of truth, when I allow myself to realize how powerful I am. When you stop the judgment, you stop the devil in your head. When you decide, let me look at this with compassion, you will see, you will feel a softening inside of you because vibrationally you will have entered a different dimension where love is being activated in you. And when you can see the other with compassion is because you're loving your neighbor because you learn to love yourself first. And you can only love yourself when you have the courage to question, why are you suffering? And when you recognize that your suffering is self-made. All suffering is self-made. There is not a single bit of suffering that any of us experiences at the hands of anybody else. And of course, anybody who's saying, but Laina, if somebody is beating you and harming you and starving you, they're making you suffer. No, they're not. You have to understand suffering is based on perception. Are you experiencing pain because you're hungry, because you're hurt? Yes. Pain is absolutely inevitable in a world that is run by people who listen to the voice of the ego, meaning the devil is running around all over the place hurting others. Yes, because devil ego is selfish. Everything that it does is for itself. Yes, pain is going to happen in this third dimension. Why do you think we want to ascend and leave this dimension? Because we're tired of suffering. That's what we have to understand, that the desire to ascend is the desire to end the pain and suffering in this world. Suffering is strictly a psychological experience. Suffering is the continuing to believe that what happened to you is you don't deserve it. It's terrible. It shouldn't happen. You can be happy because of what happened to you a year ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, 3 lifetimes ago. That's suffering. It's that mental masturbation in the head. You're constantly doing the same thing. It's like la 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 la. That's all that you're doing to yourself. And while you're doing that to yourself, you cannot move out of the density of the ego. You have to say, stop this. Instead of that instant gratification of repeating that same thing and getting the same result, move into a place where you can see there has to be another way. There has to be another way. Well, here you go. Jesus is telling us right here. Look at your life and see what the devil has made, but realize that this making will surely dissolve in the light of truth because its foundation is a lie. The lie is that there's something wrong with you. The lie is that you're not good enough. The lie is that you have to work hard to become somebody. All of that is a lie. The truth is that you are the light of the world who decided to cover up your light, to put your light under a bushel and pretend that you're not what you are. That's the lie. But that lie is what creates your suffering until you decide to take that bushel off of your head, to take that bushel off of your light, to begin to question what is going on here. And here's what's amazing. When you begin to question what's going on here, you're going to sit back and laugh at the insanity of it. It's a, oh my God, I did this to myself. Why did I do that? For one reason, because you can, because you wanted to, because it's fun to pretend what you're not. That's why we have Halloween. We pretend what we're not with costumes. That's why costume balls are something that we enjoy doing because you get to pretend you're not who you are only because we think that in the pretending, it's going to be better. That's the lie that the ego tells us. It's in the being what we are that it's going to get better because that's when you are going to experience the truth of who you are. And why do we do this? Because if you are always the light, you don't know that you are the light. So we experience the darkness to let us have that experience of choosing, oh my goodness, I'm tired of the lies. I don't enjoy that, but I did it to myself. I pretended. Why? So I could remember what I am and then go, no, I prefer this. Thank you very much. I'm not going to judge you because you gave me the ability to see the truth of who I am, but I'm not going to go back there because been there, done that. And it's boring. When you get to the place that you see this 3D world, how boring it is to go to war, to fight each other, to have rules and taxation and all that stuff. Once you're bored with that game, you will want to put all of your energy into co-creating the new game, the happy dream. But you cannot have a happy dream if you're judging the nightmare. It's not possible. If you're judging the nightmare, you're in the nightmare. You can only have a happy dream because you're dreaming the happy dream. You can't have both. You cannot do both. The course is really clear. To pick one is to let go of the other. Period. There's no middle ground except for when we're awakening and we're on that bridge that we can see this and we can see that and we got to go, oh no, I want more of this. And for a while, you're going to bounce back and forth, but you won't be in both at the same time. You'll just be bouncing back and forth. And in that bouncing back and forth, you begin to see, oh my gosh, this one feels so much better than this one. And then you decide, I'm done with the suffering. I'm done with it doing this to myself. And that's what is required. It's you have to choose to end the suffering. Sentence 5 says, your creation by God is the only foundation that cannot be shaken because the light is in it. The fact that you were made of light, nothing can change that, but you still can pretend not to access it. So that you are made of light, nothing is going to alter that. But that you accept that you're made of light, that's the journey that we're on. You have to decide that what God created is real, that what God created is good, and you only want to be what you are as God created you. And that's what is painful about this journey is because you have to then look at all of the beliefs that you've had. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not, I can't be happy. And I don't have this to be happy. And I don't have that to be happy. Your beliefs have kept you on this incredible journey of never arriving to anything that is sustainable. And that is the insanity in the mind. That is Satan. That is the devil in your head. Only the only way to leave that is to choose to accept that you are as God created you. But most of us cannot accept that we are as God created us because we have a very, very negative indoctrination about what God is. So we got to get over this whole religious indoctrination. It's like you got to lobotomize yourself from all these things that you have learned, pull that out of your head and look at it and go, my gosh, these beliefs make me feel bad about myself. I can't accept that I'm perfect if I'm believing God is a mean, angry father. Until you see God as a loving, uh, just gentle parental figure, you can't have a relationship with God where you accept that you are as God created you because you think God is mean. So if you think God is mean, then you accept that your meanness is okay. But you can't find God's gentleness until you begin to be gentle with yourself and acknowledge that your thoughts can be changed. You don't have to believe anything that makes you feel bad. You don't. You do not have to believe that you're not good enough. You don't have to believe that. Because when you believe that you're not good enough, you're just agreeing with what other people said or did or taught you. And then if you're believing what they said or did, then you're choosing to put their beliefs above yours. So then who's creating that suffering? That you're not good enough. Again, that's why suffering is always a self-inflicted wound. That is something that every one of us has to recognize. When you believe things that are lies, you create your suffering. That's where the liberation comes in. Stop believing that. It's so simple. It's so simple. If we were in church, I'd say, "Can I hear an amen, please?" It's so simple. Susie, you're so funny. All right. So, sentence number 6 says, your starting point is truth, and you must return to your beginning. Who are you before you incarnated? Who are you before this game started? You're pure light. You're a beam of light extending from the Creator. You're a thought in the mind of God that is so pure and so beautiful and filled with the promise of creativity and expansion. And if you choose to play the game of separation with love, you're in the fifth dimension. If you choose to play the game of separation with fear, you're in the third dimension. That is it. That is it. And if you don't want to play with fear, then accept that you're the one who creates it. Period. 100% responsibility is necessary, but you've got to go to the starting point. Where did all these lies start? Well, trace them back to their beginning, and you'll see that they were all started by those who had the intention of being your ruler. And when you buy into that, then you're going to be ruled by them, but not because they have power over you, but because you gave them your power. This is what wakes us up, is the desire to end the suffering that is self-inflicted. It's just so amazing. So you must return to the beginning. Sentence 7 says, much has been seen since then, since the beginning, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, but nothing has really happened because your soul is still completely intact. With every death experience, you return to the truth of who you are, and then you decide, oh, I'm going to go play that game again. Wasn't that fun? So nothing has happened to your soul. That's why we have to get to the place of acknowledging that forgiveness, the real essence of forgiveness, is we're forgiving what never really happened to the soul. We're forgiving the human experience that had us believe that something happened to us, to our soul, but nothing ever happened to the soul, because the soul is there always and forever, even if you were wearing the costume. Sentence 8 says, yourself, capital S self, is still in peace, even though your mind is in conflict. You have not yet gone back far enough, and that is why you become so fearful. If you only go back to your childhood, to when, mommy left you, or daddy beat you, or grandpa spanked you, or somebody, molested you, or somebody starved you, or somebody, didn't love you, you didn't go far enough. You find the starting point of your egoic identification. This is why this section is titled Creating versus Self-Image. You created a self-image that there's something wrong with you by what happened to you. If you go to the point that you discover the origin of your self-image, most people stay there angry at what happened to them and get spiritually righteous about, okay, well, now I know who did this to me, because when we start this journey, we begin to have memories of things that were locked away, that as children we locked away through this wonderful process of dissociation. But if you only go there to find who to blame, you didn't go far enough. You got to go before that. Who were you before you were born that chose to have that experience? That is where your power is. You've got to acknowledge that you are the light, that you are the powerful creator of your reality who chose to pretend that you're not. And this is very, very challenging. I know, because I had to live through facing the ways that I created myself a victim of my family circumstances. And I lived pretending, well, I am not what happened to me. And I took on a persona that was attempting to be so different than who I really was. But when I went behind that, when I went further back and further back, and then I went to who I am before I had the incarnation experience, which is before I had the dream of separation, I realized that I am one with all that is. And then comes the work of changing all of your beliefs so that they're in alignment with the truth of who you are. But you have to go that far. You got to go beyond what happened to you here that creates the self-image and go to who you were that chose to come in and go through that experience, because that's how you find your courage and recognize you are a courageous little soul who came in to do what you're doing. You are a courageous being of light who chose to experience this darkness. Why? If you're waking up, you chose to experience this darkness so you can show others that there's another way. If you're not choosing to wake up, you are the grain of sand that's irritating the heck out of those who are using this time to wake up. That is what is so beautiful about understanding people who are expressing their light. When they make that journey to find their light, they want to shine it. Those who do not want to find their light, they're in their darkened behaviors. They are helping make your light shine brighter, because your light couldn't be brighter if we didn't have all this darkness to contrast it, to be able to bring about the process of forgiveness that is so necessary, and acceptance that everybody's playing the role that they're supposed to be playing at this time to cause the bifurcation. We need the darkness to really cause the desire for light. It's that desire for light that amplifies the process for ascension, is what makes it so clear that, okay, we're done with that. We don't want to keep doing it that way. Why? Because it's so immature, it's so boring, it's so repetitive. It's like, done with that. That instant gratification of being right, we need to be over that. But for that, you have to be mature. It's a childish way to want to have that instant gratification. It's a very mature way to have the patience, which is one of the characteristics of a teacher of God, the patience that is necessary to shine your light, even if others can't see it, because you're doing it because it feels good. You're doing it because you know it's the truth of who you are. And then you show that you're not playing games anymore. Sentence 10 says, as you approach the beginning, you feel the fear of the destruction of your thought system upon you as if it were the fear of death. There is no death, but there is a belief in death. Everybody that I take far back into their past in this human form, or even in past lives, to feel that story that we made up, that there's something wrong with me, it's scary. And it's as if you have an entity inside of you saying, no, I can't let go of what, dad did to me. I can't let go of what grandpa did to me. I can't let go of what mom did to me. It's like you're holding on because that's your self identity. It is very difficult to let go of that identity because you think that that's who you are. So it takes an incredible amount of time and patience. Like the Course says, we're using time to undo what was created over time, to sit and acknowledge to yourself that if there's you observing what happened to you, that's not who you are. I'm going to repeat that. If you are observing what happened to you, it's not who you are. You are the observer. That means you are the presence of awareness, aware of what happened to you. But if you let what happened to you dictate who you are, you're living a lie, because you're not identified with the awareness of what happened to you. You're identified with what happened to you. That's a lie. And only you can decide to change your mind about it. Nobody can change your mind for you. And to change your mind about it, you need to have the contrast. Well, who was I before that happened? You were a happy, joyful little child before the event happened. And who you were before that happened is who you are eternally, because that is how God created you. So you got to go beyond the event. And that requires an incredible amount of courage because you're going to have to admit to yourself, oops, I was wrong. I was wrong about who I think I am. That is probably one of the most difficult things any of us will ever face is being honest enough with ourselves to recognize we were wrong. And nobody's going to punish you for being wrong. God's not going to punish you. If anything, God's going to say, yay, we have one more light that has just popped, into its fullness and it's ready to be brighter to help all the other beings remember who they are too, because it is your light when it's added to my light and it's added to this light and that light and that light, and we bring all of these lights together, that we are creating this phenomenally amazingly strong powerful beam of light that is helping others see how we can be in the midst of all that's happening and not lose our shit. If we can be peaceful amidst of what's happening, and not just peaceful, but be clear that it is happening for the greater good. It is happening to create the contrast that will allow some to wake up and some won't. And that's okay, because we don't have to save anybody. Everybody's a powerful soul. Nobody needs saving, except for when we are in physical form. It is our duty to help the children and to help the elderly. Those who have lost or who haven't gained quite the ability to help themselves, they deserve our assistance, but they cannot be helped by us if we are judging, because then we're just perpetuating the cycle of punishments and victims and bullies. We need to move away from that. We need to move into forgiveness. And that means that we stand ready to hear the voice for God, and it will guide us into what our roles are. And depending on the frequency that we're at as we're awakening, what we do is going to be very different, because you are going to be guided from within and it's going to match the frequency that you're at. Somebody who's waking up and they're in the throes of fear, the next most appropriate thing for them may be revenge. And we can't stop that. Excuse me. Everybody has to go through whatever release of energy they have to go through. But bottom line, the devil is in your belief system. You can call that ego. Satan, devil, all of that is egoic thinking, which is blocking truth of who you are. There is no devil, there is no ego per se. There's just thoughts that you believe. Change your thoughts and you change your life. That is what the course is all about. That is what I am just committed to helping people who are members of the Awareness Academy be able to learn as much as they can, the tips and the tools and everything that I have learned, everything that is in the Course in Miracles, to facilitate training your mind. Think of this as school for the mind, where we're unlearning all the stuff that we learned that doesn't help us anymore, that doesn't serve us anymore if you are ascending. We played the game of caterpillar. We played being the slug, doing all the things that caterpillars do. Many of us are in the cocoon where we're transforming. There's a metamorphosis happening. And then some of us are the butterflies that are ready to fly, ascend, to move on, to play a different game. You don't feel bad that you're not a caterpillar when you're a butterfly, and you don't judge the caterpillar, because a caterpillar enters into this experience with a butterfly in it. The seed of butterfly is in there, like the apple is inside of the seed before it even becomes a tree. So you have to understand that the essence of who you are, as God created you, the truth of who you are, is that you are a powerful creator. You have to decide, do you want to continue to create with suffering, or do you want to create with fun and joy and ease and peace? That's it. In a nutshell, that is it. So thank you for being here. And I look forward to you joining me for the next ascension with A Course in Miracles. It's so cool. It's like I get possessed and something just talks through me when we do these gatherings. And then, of course, if you want more, if you want to dive deeper, or maybe not so deep, there's, for free, you can join the Academy in the Curiosity phase and take the classes that are basic ACIM, just basic information. I put it in plain, simple language that a first grader can understand. If you want to go a little deeper, you feel like, okay, you're more of a high schooler and you're ready for some substance, join the foundation path. And then I have the advanced course in miracles class. We dive a little deeper into that. And if you want to go all the way, join us in mastery. We talk about all kinds of things, especially taking what is happening in the world and looking at it as a reflection of who we are. And if you can join the live classes, they're all recorded and there for you to go back and watch. So that's it. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. If anybody has anything to say, unmute yourselves. Otherwise, we'll just continue on with our day. And some of you I'll see later. All right, everybody. Love you all. Bye-bye.
I have a lot of to say, but it's on some other time.
All right, sweetie. Take care. I hope we see you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.